Come on by and have a bite at the CrossRoadDiner. Today is Crossroad Coaching Monday, and we're going to wrap up our session on finding and identifying your mission. We are already laughing. Steve McCurdy here. You're in the CrossRoadDiner. It's a Monday session, and we're wrapping up some coaching on building your mission statement. Welcome, John. Good to see you this morning.
It is great to see you, brother. You know, I love that, Crossroad has this coaching that's taking place. We might ought to start throwing down a little Crossroad coaching. Maybe that's what's happening on Monday. Am I right?
That is. I think that what we're going to do is that Mondays are going to be Crossroad coaching, and Thursdays are going to be CrossRoadDiner, where we do case studies with folks who have been in the diner in their life, and work with them on key questions that have to do with the kinds of things that we're doing with the coaching. So we're seven.
And I think I speak for everybody in your listening and viewing audience that says I'd rather do coaching in the CrossRoadDiner than at some Starbucks. I'm just saying.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. So this week, the assignment, you challenged me last week. My words were connect, communicate, and inspire. And this assignment says, can I connect authenticity? Authenticity is my key value. And that sentence doesn't really make sense. And you challenged that, and I agreed with it. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I pulled out the words sheet, and I came up with things that that kind of resonated with me for a while there. Those included accept, model, appreciate, and master. And years ago, when I started as a video producer and media producer, I created my company, and it's called, because of my respect for story and the way story works in all of our lives is very, very high. And so I wanted story to be in the name of the company. And my respect and my faith journey is such that I believe that I get whispered those stories from time to time. And so I called the company Story Master Pictures at the time, and it's Story Master Media now. And other people, and you even called it Story Masters for a while, like that's who we were. No, the Story Master is who I work for. My job is to listen. And when you were telling me about your business and what you do, I'm listening for that story. I'm not creating the story. It's coming to me. And so it's a humility thing that doesn't come through very well. But so the word master, I want to master authenticity. I want to get good at it myself. There's a vulnerability there. So I'm thinking, even though there's an ego thing that makes me go, stay away from master, you're starting to sound like a real cowboy. Model might be better, but somehow or another that even seems more arrogant. There's something about master that says I'm still learning. While I do want to model authenticity, I want to master the process of being authentic. I think that's an ongoing thing. I think that's constant. It goes forever. I don't think I ever will get there, but I want to work toward that. And John Wesley would talk about, perfecting our faith, that we are constantly perfecting our faith and working toward that perfection. So, so now what I've landed with is my sentences are, can I master authenticity? Can I communicate authenticity? And can I inspire authenticity? And I've got a yes to all three of those questions. Where are we now?
Very good. Very good. Very good. Well, it's interesting because listening to you talk about story master, it was a noun. The story master whispers in my ear, right?
Yeah.
But you're using it as a verb in your, this kind of journey that you've taken. And I definitely did not see any arrogance in that. When I think of master, I think of perfection, and I'm like, well, I'm not. That's not my. I want to be about process, progress, not necessarily perfection, right? And so it's really interesting to kind of hear the reality of this is where it lands with Steve, right? Not where it lands with John. And so as I hear you talking about mastering authenticity, I may have some questions about that if it was me. But as you work through this process, it's a deeply personal process.
Yes,
and this is not I know we've said this before, but I want to emphasize this again. This is not a tagline. This isn't necessarily something that's going to go on your website. You may or may not mention it in your, information about you, a bio or an about page or whatever.
Okay.
Depending, but this is you. This is who you are. We talked about who you be, why you be, kind of thing.
This is like diary stuff. This is stuff that you're talking to yourself about.
Yeah. And so as we kind of come through this process, I love it. I love that you wrestled with this. I love that it's a deeply personal verb to you, is this idea of mastering authenticity that is challenging you both inside your ego as well as your
absolutely
actions. And so I love it. I think it's great. And the reality is I can listen and I can ask questions or whatever, but the reality is this has landed deeply within you.
Yeah.
You gave a significant, you did not just go back to the verb page and see which top 10, what was your top 10 and see if any of those, took the place of connect. You gave us a history lesson in the McCurdy and what you're about that brought you to that word. So this feels very strong to me. It feels very personal for you. I think it's fantastic. I think it makes perfect sense of the idea of mastering authenticity is that we will, no matter how hard we try, we won't be perfectly authentic.
Right.
I love the word vulnerability. No matter how hard I try, no matter how vulnerable I am, and that is, I've been told it's my superpower, right? But I know I'm never going to be totally vulnerable. I don't know if I don't even know if we know what that looks like. It is a process and identifying that, seeing that, resting in it, again, feeling it in your soul as a deeply personal, word to you, I think is very telling, very beautiful.
Thanks. It's because when I came down to acceptance, and so accept the authenticity of others as best they can. Mm-hmm. I struggled, and it landed between model and master, and the arrogance test was the thing that I wanted to pass on that, and the vulnerability thing, because master scared me. It really did. It's just like, okay, do I want to claim that for myself? Do I want to aspire to that level? Do I want to accept the responsibility of how personally honest that's going to require me to be? That's what decided it for me, is that I'm a little uncomfortable with it. So
that's a beautiful thing. Well, and it's a great transition, because now that you've gotten there, now that you've landed there, right? Yeah. We can move to what is the final step. I think I have it labeled as step 5, but it is the very close to the last page. It's definitely the last step in this, and it is very simply putting it all together. Right. So it is that last page, which I believe you have. If you want to kind of hold it up to show people, it's a simple page. Oh, do you not have it printed out?
I didn't print this one yet. Let me hit print and see if I can actually do that.
Well, while you're doing that, all we're doing now is saying verb, and verb, my core value. I exist, right? My mission is. And so, I, as you have now, tried them all individually, now put it together and speak it out in one complete sentence.
My mission is to master, communicate, and inspire authenticity.
That's beautiful. I like
it. Now that I now that I put it all together, Yeah, that feels really good.
Yeah, it's so good, and it's important. You talked about how you wanted to do. You said something about being authentic, authentic. Why can I suddenly not?
I don't know.
Mastering authenticity for others. Authentic. I got like a tick going on. Anyway, you mentioned others, and so it's really important. Our mission, the reason we exist, is not for ourselves, and so our mission statement clearly should be what we are bringing into the world for others, and that's exactly you. As you were explaining that, you said, "There you go." So that is actually the very back page. So I probably should have been more specific. It's the one right before that has the blanks in it.
Okay.
That was some examples of other mission statements that we worked through. So, but it's good because since you pointed that out, you'll be able to read some of those after we, So tell us yours again.
Okay. My mission is to master, communicate, and inspire authenticity.
That's beautiful. Okay, so I want to encourage you. There's actually, when you print that page out, I want you to fill in the blanks, and there's a signature there. So I want you to do a couple of things here. One, I want you to sign it, like, in agreement.
Pledge, right.
With, yes.
Contract with myself.
Yes, I also want you, unlike other agreements, I want you to share with others, share with the people that are closest to you. We've kind of gone through this process a little bit in the last two steps of making sure it resonates, having other people speak into you. Did I say it wrong again, or did I say it right? Resonate. Make sure it resonates, not just with you, but other people say, yes, that is exactly who you are.
Okay, so we do you want me to do a check with folks who know me?
Yes. The people that are closest to you go, does this, I'm sitting here, I get to walk it through with you. We've known each other less than a year, but we know each other pretty darn well. Yeah. And I definitely, it definitely resonates with me and feels like the guy that I have gotten to know and continue to become deeper friends with. There's those folks that have known you a lot more that you'll be able to share with and get some feedback, and know that as you go, there may be slight tweaks. There may be, and this is for everybody. You may, what you just stated may be exactly it, and you have it. Just all it does is settle in your soul in the coming weeks and months. However, there may be the possibility that as it goes, you tweak little things. You may even restructure the sentence slightly or something like that. I was trained in this area by someone who would say, no, this is it. Once you've been there, this is what it is. This is the format. This is what we teach. You do it like this. I have a really personal passion that tells me Steve McCurdy is not John Burnett, is not Sally or Debbie or Joe or Fred. We are all unique individuals. And so even how as we settle, we've come through this process, we've followed the process to a T, right? You have filled in the blanks of the programmatic process, right? There we go. You've signed it, right? Now live with it. Let it settle. Talk to some other folks and see if it speaks to them about who you are as a human being, about why you be on this planet, and let that feedback, again, kind of encourage the settling and the confirmation. Or if there's some pushback, be open to that pushback. Not saying anybody else knows you better than you, but we just want to be open to feedback.
Well, and I would think if I get feedback that's counter to this, then obviously this is not what I am doing. That's not who I'm being with them.
Right.
So that's good feedback.
Right.
It may speak more about that personal relationship and how I am with them than it does about what my mission is. But it does say that I'm not on mission with some people.
Right. Well, and so something else that's so fantastic about this, and I'm gonna. So I think we are clear on live with it, share it, tweak it if you need to. Our relationship is such that I will ask you from time to time, possibly in our next podcast, hey, what's your mission, Steve?
Yeah.
And you say, I am on mission to master, communicate, and inspire authenticity. And it's going to flow out of you. Or if you tweak it, whatever you tweak, it'll flow out of you. But I really encourage you, repeat it. Print it out, put it in front of you, remind yourself, wake up. This is something I do in the morning. It's become part of my morning practice. The first thing I put in my journal before I listen to before I write out affirmations, before I write out gratitudes, before I speak vision that I have for my future, the very first thing is I say, this is my mission, to passionately inspire others to more of what they were created for. That I write it out every single day as just a reminder. And I haven't submitted a memory. I'm not trying to remember it. It is just
it's not even submitted to memory. It comes out of you as like an exhale. It's just part of it.
And so it's a constant reminder every morning, and it helps kind of set, like my gratitudes help me set my intentions for the day, remembering there's a reason why I be. there is a deep reason for my existence.
Right.
And every day I have an opportunity to live that out. So I really want to encourage that. Another thing I love about mission statements is it helps us differentiate between callings and cravings, right? So a mission is us being.
Say more about that, man. That's okay.
Yeah, that may be a whole different podcast.
Set it up again. It's a differentiate between callings and cravings.
Calling and craving. So what I like to talk about, and you know this, is the MVP program, mission, vision, a plan of action, right? And so vision is taking our mission and living it out. So while mission, you have been about mastering, communicating, and inspiring authenticity your whole life. Now, when you were in high school and a little kid, maybe it was still developing in you. You didn't have that written statement with you when you were in your 20s or 30s or whatever. But you can look back on your life and say, as a father, in my relationships, in my workplace, no matter where I was, no matter what role I was playing in church or in the public or in, like I said, the workplace, this was coming out of me. It was your Excel, right?
Yeah. To underscore your point, I've been a director and a producer involved in stage and film all of my adult life, and I have heard myself say on set with actors and with crew, I want us to get real here. I want this scene to have a reality about it. I didn't use the word authentic, but that's what I was saying. And it was all of my communication. I want to be relatable because and my strategy for that was, if we make it real, if we make it genuine, if we make it sincere, if we make it flawed, vulnerable, it'll be real. And now I could say it'll be authentic. So you're right. You're right. This has been a drive. I wasn't even at the level of consciousness.
Yes. And that's a beautiful thing. Like we said at the beginning, you and I have the advantage of hindsight as I developed my mission statement about 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago now. You're doing yours now. Timing doesn't matter. It's what really matters is living it out. And what I love is when I'm working with someone who's younger, or maybe even in their kind of midlife season, that come to the realization, I'm not happy. Because when you recognize why you exist, your reason for being, and you kind of put words to that, suddenly you can look at how you're living that out and see, am I on mission or not? Because my contention, and I think it's proven out by almost every life that's ever been, right, is that when we're living on mission, we can be really struggling and not necessarily happy,
Yeah.
but still find joy in the process, joy in the journey, right? But when we are getting up and going to a job, for instance, that we are not able to live on mission in that job, then we need some more vision, because that vision is not going to bring joy, and it's going to keep us from having the same level of impact in the world.
And as we start recognizing that, it's when we find ourselves in the CrossRoadDiner. It's when we start saying, what questions do I need to be asking myself? Because something's not right.
Yes. And so that brings us back to the comment that I made about helps us differentiate between calling and craving, right? And so our vision, which I can I can compare to vision and calling, is how we're living on mission, right? So what I am called to do on a day-to-day basis. Calling's vision, again, are about giving, are about my desire to give. For you, for instance, your mission statement very clearly shares with everybody that you desire to give authenticity to the world. Another way to say that is truth. And I believe that people are not drawn to, they may be drawn to a certain amount of talent, but the magnetic draw is to authenticity, vulnerability, to truth. That's why truth sets us free. Right. And yet our culture tells you to hide behind a mask and don't share truth. And so
fake it till you make it, buddy.
there you go. And so there's this reality that as we define our mission, we start using it as a filter, it will inform our vision, our calling, which is about others, which is about giving, which is an outflow of who you be, an outflow of your mission, versus an emptiness you're trying to fill, which is a craving. Cravings are about us trying to fill an emptiness. And I'll even correct something I said, because I said it doesn't really matter when you define your mission. I honestly, like, one of my heartbeats is to get to 20-year-olds, to 20-somethings. Yeah. Right. But as early in a person's life as possible, because there's so much stuff that living on mission brings, from a joy standpoint, from a direction standpoint, that if we can get clear about why we be, the reason we're here at a younger age, then we're living a life on mission. I know in the story that I told about Dan in the middle, his literally out of his mouth was, when I was in my 20s, I feel like God told me to turn left, I turned right, and I've been wandering the wrong way ever since. That is a heavy burden. Yeah. Now, I didn't define my mission until I was in my 40s. Now, you've clearly defined yours at whatever age you are. I'm not even sure, but I think you got a birthday coming up. There you go. And so the reality is, you can look back and you can clearly see, for me, it was like, okay, I've been living on mission. Have I been living in perfection? That's not the point. It's not about perfection. It's about process. But I can look back and go, okay, yeah, there were times. In fact, one of my career deficits was a point, or what I consider a failure, but it wasn't, was a time that I took a position and then I left that position in less than 12 months. And at the time, I felt like a complete failure for like quitting that job so quick. Like, I needed to stick it out. I needed to work it. But here's the reality. I was in a position where I was, the head of our company was in an office next door to me and was not a healthy human being. And I was not able to live on mission in that position. It was like I was under an oppression. And so I had an opportunity to move into a place where I literally got a demotion. I went from being a vice president at like 32, look at me, I'm a VP, I was so proud of myself, to being an account executive, back in just being a sales guy. And my joy level went off the chart, because I had this freedom to live. And at that time, I didn't have my my mission defined, my personal mission, but I was living it and able to embrace relationships and who I was about without that oppression. And so while I took a cut in pay, a cut in title, and kind of shamed myself for quitting after less than a year, but man, the freedom that it brought, I knew I'd made the right decision. And it turned out to be one of the greatest. It was a career move for me that turned into 15 years with Fox Sports, and it was an amazing journey. And so it was hard at the time, but I can look back and go, wow, that freedom that I felt. And until 15 years later, I was put in a position where I was rising up and kind of gotten back in a point where I needed to get out underneath something so I could more freely step into the next vision that God was giving me for my life. So sorry, went on a little tangent there.
No, that's great. You testify. But we're sitting right here. I'm looking at the clock. So what I want to do is I want you to summarize, now that we've got all of these questions. You were talking about that you normally kind of go through this one way, and because of the way that we've done the show, you're finding that the folks that you're mentoring and that you're coaching with find that step-by-step process more effective for them because they're not overwhelmed. Yes. So we're going to put in the notes for the show our links to all 4 of these. And I was going to put the whole thing, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep those 4 separate. 1, 2, 3, 4, and wrapping it up so that you download them. And we recommend that you do them individually and then reach for the next one. Go back and download that next one and do it with a bit of a gap. The other thing is that they're not in these files because these are from your personal program, but we're going to amend it. We're going to add to it a way to communicate with John and I so that we can give you some feedback. If you want to submit it, and say, this is what I'm thinking. What about it? And then we're also going to draw those from time to time and reach out and offer you a little 15-minute one-on-one with either one of us on the phone to kind of walk through that with you so that you can kind of get used to what coaching with he or I or both of us is like, because we think that this is step 1. Step 1 is the identification for yourself of what you're about, who you be. So John and I are going to work out, after we hang up today, we're going to work out what that looks like on the document. But it'll be on the first one that you download, and it'll be on every one that you download, is the way that you can submit that to us to just give you a real quick text feedback, email feedback, and then how we can work out with you a one-on-one. John, thank you for this wonderful format and for walking everybody through it. Summarize a few things here, and we'll sign off for today.
Yeah, I just love this process. I love seeing eyes light up, and happened with you as you were working through this final step. When you have clarity of why you exist, it does not make things perfect. No. That is not the point. This thing is a journey, but boy, it allows you to start looking at things completely different. You are the creator of your future. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And you can look and say, oh, because I'm on mission to do this, I can glean from even the sucky stuff that happens in my life and recognize that as building me up to be more targeted on mission as I step forward. And so I love it. It's been a joy to kind of walk you through it. Obviously, you've already been living on mission, but now you have some clear verbiage behind that. And right. It is exactly, I'd love to do it. We are here for anybody and everybody that's listening to this. Love to walk them through the process, and living a life on mission is one of the best ways to choose joy for every day of your life.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. John and I are going to invite some other coaches to help us with coaching at the Crossroads over the next several months. So we will see you next time, where we'll have an example, somebody who's in the CrossRoadDiner, and we'll use this model to invite them to tell us a little bit about who they are, what they're all about. Thanks for being with us. Work through this, make it pay for you. And until next time, this is my buddy John.
Great to see you guys. Have a great day.
And I'm Steve, and we'll see you next time in the CrossRoadDiner. Today's show notes contain links to all 4 of the documents John and I have used to identify key life value, the key action verbs, and the steps to refining your personal mission statement. Send us an email at crossroaddiner@storymastermedia.com if you would like to be part of some personal coaching in this process for you. Until next time, come back to see us at the CrossRoadDiner, that place your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction.